Starcroc.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Monday, the 22nd of May, 2023. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today is Zachary Burgess.
Another late cast.
And Robert Kemp.
Yeah, I suppose in both time and day this time.
Oh, well, yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
It's starting late.
I thought you'd appreciate the name of this beer, though, because it's the dumbest name. It's a brew gooder. It's not like
brew gooder,
like beer better. It's just almost like that.
Is it a foreign beer?
I think so.
German?
I think it's UK. It's just a brew gooder.
Brew gooder.
They brew more well.
Did they brew it well, gooder?
It's Scottish, if that helps. Brew gooder.
And have you tried it?
No, I have not. It has not touched my lips. It has touched my trousers because I spilled it. But
yeah, it's a good start. Okay,
I can't taste through my leg area, so.
Apparently, it's not good.
No, I was sniggering. I was sniggering through the sip, which is always a mistake.
Oh no!
Well,
maybe that's a technique. You know when you when you're wine tasting, you have to like breathe through it and like swill it around in your mouth and stuff. Maybe sniggering
you have to snigger it.
Like helps. Yeah,
and it helps to have a little bit of
gauge it.
Bit of a choke on it.
Yeah, a bit of a coughing fit. That's how you tell if it's brewed gooder.
I'm okay. It's a good beer.
He's all right. Oh, it's a good beer. Okay,
it's a good beer. It's quite tasty. It's a tropical pale. Ooh.
In what sense is it tropical?
I assume it's got like citrus notes, is what they're trying to say.
As always.
Right, but brewed in Scotland, not so tropical.
No. Oh, it's got passion fruit and mango extract. There you go. It's not just got citrus notes. It's got
specific fruits.
Yeah.
Right. They literally put umbongo in there.
just pour it directly in. It's part of the manufacturing process. As part of the manufacturing process, they just have one guy whose job is just to open cartons all day and just pour it in.
Man, I used to love umbongo.
I'm guessing.
Yes, I know.
I'm guessing umbongo is withdrawn for being racist.
Probably.
Right?
I think it's. Is umbongo still about? Kiyora's still about. We've talked about that before, but
that had more racist adverts, but a less racist name.
Yeah. Umbongo. They drink it in the Congo.
Yep.
Yeah. That was delicious, though. Loved umbongo. It was my child carton of choice.
I mean, what would you want to bet that it was, or what was actually in it inside the container was exactly the same as at least one of those other products?
Yeah.
It was probably all made in the same factory.
Screw you, Capri Sun. Is it Capri Sun or Capri Sun?
Depends on whether you want to say it like that.
It's probably Capri, right? 'Cause, like the car.
Like whatever the car's named after, presumably.
They call it a Ford Capri, not a Ford Capri.
Capri, presumably, as in the island of Capri, right off Italy, right?
Yes,
Is that where
presumably.
Capri comes from? Right. There are many cars named after
Places.
soft drinks, like the Kia Ora. Obviously.
Kiora, a boogie, 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 Kiora.
Yeah. It's too orangey for crows.
Too juicy for crows.
Too orangey for crows. Just for me and my dog.
I think umbongo is still going, but it's now represented by like a pink rhinoceros dude.
Okay.
Right. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Wikipedia. Umbongo has never been produced or sold in either the Republic of the Congo or the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
That's an important
So they don't drink it in the Congo. It was
They could drink it and just not manufacture it there.
Oh, that's true. It could be resold to the Congo.
That's true. Maybe they import all their umbongo in the Congo.
So does that mean they couldn't have released that advert until they could ship to the Congo?
For false advertising.
Yeah.
They do not, in fact, drink it in the car. There's like an asterisk and small print at the bottom of the screen in the advert.
This is not actual gameplay.
Is that what Heart of Darkness was about? Like shipping Mbongo up the Congo to the Kettle Curse Lost
It was they had to hide it under the diamonds.
It's too juicy. It has to be hidden.
So anyway,
for the record, this tastes nothing like a Mbongo.
Okay, it's a tropical Scottish beer.
Indeed, made from all those fruits that you expect up in the Highlands.
So what's been going on?
House
this
grouse time.
Lakecast?
Yeah.
House grouse.
My hot water's buggered again.
I put in. Oh yeah. Oh, is this related to the famous Needham leak?
No, it's just my boy.
There's currently no leaks at all. They finally fixed that last one.
What? I feel like a local landmark has gone.
Well, I mean, give it a week and it'll probably another bit of that pipe will burst.
Give it a week. Yeah, it'll move like a few feet up the road.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a problem. Showers have become an interesting affair because there's a little bit of hot water. Like, I don't quite know how that's happening, but like
solar heated.
Yeah, so basically, like my shower technique has resorted to dive in, like get a bit damp, soap up without the water on, and then turn it back in and dive in for a very quick rinse. And it's like, this is probably the most energy efficient way I could do this. But I probably still stink because I'm not in there for a long time.
The planet.
Yeah.
So what's gone wrong with your heating?
Oh, I don't know. Something valvey.
Valvey. Okay.
It'll be valvey. Except I sort of checked both of the main, on-off valves, and they both seem to move. So, or at least they make the noise that they're moving. But then the heating doesn't kick in if you open the hot water valve. There's something missing. There's something missing that doesn't tell the heater the actual boiler to go on.
Have you asked Zach for his diagnosis? Because he usually has something that then the professional then confirms.
Yeah, but then I'll just be like, the belts. And it's
it'll be the belts.
I can come up with a singular answer, and then it will be just like, well, it was, but that's not really helpful.
Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah.
It's like anything to do with plumbing. It's a bit valvey somewhere.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's definitely valvey.
Yeah, no, my neighbour plumber has had a little look, and he said it was one of the valves, but I'm contesting that because I think the one he thought was a problem was the one he fixed last time, which was a valve to do with the central heating, not the hot water. So
and the central heating was definitely working.
The central heating was definitely working.
In fact, too much.
It was toasty. Anyway, that's my house grouse.
That's your house grouse.
Yeah.
I finally got one of those hue motion sensors for the hallway lights, like you have.
Yeah, it is nice.
But now I have to fucking remember not to use my muscle memory and turn off the lights constantly.
Yeah, that's
annoying.
It did take us a little bit to get into that.
Yeah.
It took us a little while.
My brain.
But now I can't.
Yeah, but that's quite good.
Like turning any light switch on is now slightly problematic for me. I just sort of forget to do it. Like. Because it's like, where's the hue button? Oh, there isn't one in this room. That's not strictly true. I've got back into the habit because our current kitchen isn't smarted up yet, so it's I still use the lights in there. Normal lights.
Yeah, so the hallway in my place is the last room to get attention. So it's finally been smarted up. So I got new shelves to put my ridiculous, which doesn't even fit, Lego Rivendell set, which I finally put together, and I put that in a shelf, and it's dark in the hallway, so I put a hue strip light under the shelf above to light it up.
Pretty.
And of course that works with the rest of the lights in the hallway on the motion sensor. So
was that a lengthy build in the end?
Yeah, it's like 6,000 plus pieces. Although a lot of them are like 1x1 tiles to make the roof look pretty. You have to put them in kind of diamond ways.
I see. Yeah,
rotated 45 degrees. Yeah.
It's like I didn't realize it until today, actually, that the Nintendo TV that Lego do.
Oh yeah,
the one that plays
NES.
Mario. Like I didn't realize that the stand for the TV isn't connected to the TV. The TV stand is actually built with bricks upside down, and the TV just slots into it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So it's like the TV is not actually part of the table.
Right. So you can take the stand off if you want.
Yeah, they just stay disconnected, which is kind of interesting. Cool. But it's like, it's built upside down. That's weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of sideways building in this one. Like some crazy, like weird techniques to make all the shapes and stuff. It's pretty cool. Because you can take the Council of Elrond scene with a tree out, so you can look at it in more detail. But then the thing that it just slots out, it's not actually connected by any studs. It just slots in and out.
That makes sense.
But the part that it's resting on, like just below where the little plinth or whatever where they put the ring, in the center of the circle where Gimli goes and tries to smash it with his axe and it breaks. Under there, that's holding it up, there's some bricks, but they've been made into an Eye of Sauron kind of shape. So under holding it up is a secret like Eye of Sauron. It's kind of cool.
It's Easter eggs, but not for the person building it.
Yeah.
It's Easter eggs, but not for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, because sometimes there's Easter eggs in Lego sets that you can never see again, and you only get the Easter egg while you're building it or whatever, and that's quite rare. That's cool, sometimes. Yeah, it's cool.
Only you know.
Yeah.
Well, you've paid like several £100 for the secret knowledge of the internal brick
that anyone could look up on the internet.
Yeah, but no one's gonna unless they like. That's the thing. Like you don't look that stuff up. Well, someone might now that we've said it.
Yeah. Anyway, check it out. It's a ridiculous Lego set. And I have limited space in my 1-bedroom London flat, but I had to buy a whole new shelving unit just to fit that. So that is complete. Oh, and the other thing I've got in my hallway is because the walls were bare, apart from being painted a nice color, this dark blue color. They were bare because I got pictures, but the first priority is like the living room and the bedroom where you're actually going to spend time, right? Sure. Before the hallway, which is just an access. Obviously, I was like, what am I going to put on the walls of this? Because they're quite long, and I don't want to put loads of pictures up there because you can't really, because it's narrow, you can't really appreciate the pictures that well. But I had this idea that I could put LPs, vinyl records, up on the wall or whatever. Idea. And I found this thing.
He mentioned this on the podcast 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we did talk about it before. Oh, we talked about the idea before, not what you've actually done.
Okay, well now I've got it. It's working now, so complete.
How is the mounts like? Are they under a surface, or is it just like they're mounted onto a bracket or something?
So it's a sort of big fabric thing that you hang on the wall or whatever,
and it
which
has
pockets. Yeah, exactly.
It's a little bit like one of those
kind of get a little
like shoe storage things that people hang off the backs of their doors.
Yeah,
like just a bit nicer,
kind of, but it's flat, obviously. And you just tuck the top and bottom of the record into a bit of fabric or whatever that's a flap of fabric. But the whole thing needs to be hung on the wall. Sure. And for that, it has metal hooks, and that had those 3M command strips.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just had to measure out and then just literally stick them on the wall, and then hang the fabric on, and then put the records into the slots. And it's working quite nicely. I only got enough records to fill like 2 rows out of the 4 so far.
Okay,
but that's because they're freaking expensive. But it's like I'm buying the albums that I really love. Obviously, makes sense, and also ones that have nice looking cover. But it's because all my music has been digital pretty much. I basically only really got into music when MP3s became a thing, properly.
When Napster
I can't
kicked off.
imagine. Yeah,
I mean, I had a few CDs before that point, but not really, not like 2 albums or something like that.
No,
I'm trying.
You
I
had
could probably count the number of albums.
2.0.
Yeah, I had Garbage 2.0. I think I had Warning by Green Day.
You had Warning. Yeah.
A couple of bass. I had 3 Basement Jaxes. I had an Uncle album. That was good. I had a few CDs, I suppose, but not that. That was kind of it. That was all of them.
Yeah. I think I had White Blood Cells, obviously, and I think.
Oh yeah, I had,
my parents
Get Behind Me, Satan. I had that.
Oh yeah, that's a bit later on, isn't it? But my parents got me the
Although that's gone
first
missing,
Chemical
so
Brothers album. I don't know how
nice.
they knew to get me that. Exit Planet Dust. Like, I think they'd seen that I'd enjoyed watching Chemical Brothers on Glastonbury on the TV.
Yeah.
And so they thought, oh, we'll get them a Chemical Brothers album. But they got like the first one. I was like, that's really good. Anyway, so I had a few good CDs. But like, I don't think I would have got into music because if I was spending all my pocket money on CDs. And so as soon as I could get MP3s, it like changed. Anyway, and so it's all Spotify. But so these albums I'm finally buying, and of course I'm buying physical vinyl records or whatever. But I'm like, these guys, I've listened to these albums about a bazillion times each. So like they deserve this money, probably. The bands that have made these albums. But yeah, there's like 20 to 30 quid each for new LPs or whatever.
You were going to try and seek out whatever that ridiculous Jack White like vinyl, science vinyl, whatever it is he made recently. The ones with the holograms in it and the track
crazy
with
ones.
branching paths. And
no, I mean I did get the 20th anniversary Elephant vinyl. That's
nice.
as far as but I've got that obviously. So yeah, so I'll get some more. But like I spent like 300 plus quid just in the record shop on vinyl. But then I got obviously not the most amazing or whatever, like entry level, but I got a record player, and it's really fun playing them on because it would be stupid to have them just as decoration and not be able to like literally play them. So I got a record player to go. So now I have a PS5 and a record player next to each other.
I want to say my dad's in that position at the moment where he has an epic collection of vinyl because obviously he was a music and vinyl guy, and but currently has no record player on which to actually use them, which is a bit weird because I actually, it's a bit weird. I ended up having to buy him cases in which to store them in.
Oh man!
I say having to. I bought them as gifts, but it's like you've got this vinyl, nice. But they probably should be like kept properly. Here, have some big ass record cases.
Cool. Well, that's it. So I started my small vinyl collection.
Is it a nice record player? Is it like a hi-fi separate, or is it like one of those like briefcase devices?
No, it's a hi-fi separate. I mean, I didn't want to spend a lot, so it's a Sony one, and and the key thing is, which is ridiculous, obviously, is it has Bluetooth. So
nice.
I have that way I don't have to wire it. And I can put it next to the TV, and I don't have to wire it to my computer speakers because I already use the Bluetooth. I have a DAC, and that's how that has Bluetooth or whatever.
Okay.
Connected to my amp. So
I suppose you're not playing a lot of games on your PC at the moment, or Mac at the moment. So, like, I guess the latency of that isn't problematic.
Yeah, exactly. Like I used the Bluetooth with the Mac. Like when I had my PC going, it was plugged in via USB to the DAC, and the latency was minimal. But yeah, the Bluetooth latency is not a problem for. I mean, the only game I play on Mac is Civilization and I know Disco Elysium, so I don't think that needs.
No, that's not critical. Not critical.
Yeah, it does seem to, like, if you're playing videos and stuff. I don't know if it's a Mac OS feature, probably some on Windows, but it does seem to cleverly sync up the video. And the sound,
I wonder if it knows.
Bluetooth. It definitely is doing some compensation because it takes a second to work when you like connect it sometimes. And sometimes I have to like resynchronize it by switching the audio device. But it's clever enough to know that there's latency and compensate. Obviously, that won't work with a game, but it works with video.
Sure.
Yeah.
I wish TVs and AV receivers had slightly better options to deal with that. It's still a slight problem for me at times. Like, there's never the delay option in the right place. It's like I'd actually quite like to delay the video on my Sky sometimes, for instance, because for some reason the audio sounds ahead, and it's like most things only offer an audio delay option. It's like no, I need it the other way around.
And they don't let you do negative audio delay.
Well, no, because it's like technically impossible for what it's doing. I guess it's like, I suppose if you did I suppose they could then start delaying the video instead of the audio if you did it that way, but I need a new AV receiver at some point, but I'm still using my Xbox in stereo mode. It's because the latency is low. Audio. Yeah, I did. I was
audio stuff.
I randomly wandered into a vinyl store while I was. It was several years ago now, but while I was in Norfolk, we found this place, and I was sorely tempted. They had some Chemical Brothers LPs, and I was sorely tempted to pick them up, even though.
I should get Exoplant Dust actually on LP. Yeah.
Yeah, was it that? No, it was. I think it was. What's the album that's like? Is it sort of greeny in color? Has it got like just a girl's face and like outline? I forget which album that is, but anyway, they had that one, and it's and I think they had I can't remember. I can only picture them. The one that's
Surrender.
like a crowd. It's got like
Is that Surrender? And Come With Us, right?
Oh yeah, Surrender sounds right. Anyway, yeah, they had those, and it's just like, oh, that's tempting. I've got nothing to play it on, but they're cool. I didn't at the end.
Cool. Yeah. So that's audio, music, sort of decoration, house, grouse, not really grouse stuff.
House spouse though.
It'll be grouse when the command strips fail and it falls off the wall.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For now, it's fine.
Yes, they don't weigh it too much. Always add more hooks.
I think it's holding up for now. Yeah, indeed. It was quite a lot of hooks, to be fair. There's like quite a lot of metal hooks, so hopefully it'll hold up. Those command strips things are good, provided you can reach. Like, it's good for a hook because you can have the thing that removes the command strip sticking out the bottom, and it's not unsightly because obviously the thing you're hooking onto it covers it up. Yeah, but if you're trying to use it to put up a picture like straight, and then you're hiding the thing, then it's really hard to like actually then remove it.
To an extent,
yeah.
like
So don't do that.
If you've mounted it right, then you can normally do the angle thing, right? Where it's you start lifting the picture from the bottom, and it's like peels the Velcro-y bit away, and then you're just left with the other side of the strip on the wall, and then which you can easily remove if you need to. And the only thing I'll say is I've had bad luck with those command strip hooks, because that was how my Rocket League picture fell off the wall in here.
Oh no!
Because that was on a command strip hook. Admittedly, it was a heavy frame, and actually had glass rather than acrylic, so it was probably a bit on the heavy side. But yeah, that failed. I think Gnome's had a couple of failures with command hooks in the past, but we're usually trying to hang, relatively heavy stuff because they're hooks, and it's like, they're for awkward shaped things. Command strips. Be careful, yo.
Come on. Yeah. Right, shall we do the news? Is there anything going on in the world of video games?
I mean, other than Tears of the Kingdom, which, we should we'll glance around for a second.
I mean, that's not news. Yeah, that's what we've been like, literally.
I mean, it's sort of the biggest news in games, regardless. Like just at the moment because of how much it's selling, and
sure,
it's sold a bonkers amount, and is reviewing ridiculously well.
Good news for your league.
Oh yeah, great news for my league. It's my one league. Like shining light on my otherwise terrible fantasy critic team. But
yeah, you had bad luck with Lego 2K Drive over here.
Yeah, that hasn't reviewed super hot. Like, it's annoying because like the few reviews I've actually watched or read have been pretty positive, but somehow like the Open Critic score is being dragged down somewhere. I haven't gone in to have a look.
Doesn't like it.
IGN and Kotaku were pretty up on it. So yeah, that's a bit unfortunate.
I think your Tears of the Kingdom score. I think did I mention? I think my friend from university did the Eurogamer review, Edwin, of Tears of the Kingdom. He gave it 4 out of 5, so he may be dragging it down.
Yeah, it's difficult when outlets only have like a 5-point scale, right? Because it's like that's a whole 20% down. Oh.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I thought Eurogamer got rid of the star rating stuff and were just doing recommended.
A number of places do.
Essential.
Because I think Kotaku do that, and I don't know quite how that then factors into OpenCritic scoring.
Maybe they were pressured to put the score back because of the aggregation stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit of a growing trend, isn't it? Well, I say growing. Like I thought, you probably could have said this over the last 10 years or so. That it's like, oh, there's a growing trend towards outlets not doing scores anymore. But there seem to always be plenty that do. Remember, it's about the reviewer's opinion. The reviewer's opinion.
Reviewers. Yeah.
And opinions vary.
So, news other than Zelda. What do we got?
Bad news for... sort of confusingly bad news for Hollow Knight Silksong. If you were waiting for it, you're going to have to wait that little bit longer because it's been delayed from some indeterminate time to some other indeterminate time.
Well, they only said a month this time.
Did they actually eventually say a month? I thought it was like they were like, oh, we wanted to release it in the first half of 2023, but we're not going to make that.
Okay. I just need it to be this year for my league.
Yeah. I just thought that was quite funny news, like because it's like we didn't announce you didn't tell us when it was coming out, like, and now you're saying it's delayed,
and it's still delayed.
Well, I mean, if it didn't come out in the first half of the year, then it was delayed.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically true, but it's funny that it's become public knowledge that it was delayed by the fact that we didn't know of them telling us that it was. Yeah, you know what I mean.
I think that actually makes me more confident that it'll come out this year, though. The fact, that
maybe
that. Yeah.
I'm kind of with you. I think it probably will be back half. Like maybe holiday season.
Nice.
But yeah, it's just funny. From something to something. What is the more dramatic form of a delay? Well, it's a cancellation. And Overwatch 2, strictly not the game itself, not cancelled, but the whole point of it perhaps being Overwatch 2 has been cancelled. We won't be getting the new PvE mode that was touted as one of the main reasons they were rebuilding the whole thing. Which is a bit, I don't know, man. Overwatch feels like it's like in the sort of Halo Infinite space, right? Where no one's been that happy with it since it went 2. Like it seems like it's good still. Like I get that vibe, but like that it's just not as good as what Overwatch 1 was kind of selling. And that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Why can't Blizzard follow things up generally? Like they completely failed to follow up World of Warcraft, right? Which is a massive deal, right? And then
they kind of followed up World of Warcraft.
Is basically what they did instead
for a long time.
Yeah. Well, exactly. But Overwatch is the remnants of Titan, right? The World of Warcraft replacement, right?
Well, it was a very different thing, but they were targeting another big MMO with Project Titan, and that wasn't fleshing out, so they stripped it back and turned it into an FPS. Overwatch, it probably was an FPS originally. No one really knows.
Yeah,
but they stripped it back and turned it into a multiplayer shooter and a very good one at that.
Great. Yeah, but they can't seem to follow that up. Yeah,
no. They don't know quite what to do with it. I mean, that's kind of the problem with the modern landscape of multiplayer shooters anyway, right? When they were just release and let it go, like adding a sequel was the only thing you could do and it made sense. Nowadays, that's a lot trickier. People expect a multiplayer shooter to last and stick around. But
Overwatch did last.
And Overwatch did last, yeah. And everyone thought the 2 was a bit unnecessary. And turns out, it feels even more like the 2 was unnecessary, except for the cynic among you might be saying, oh, well, it was all just a ploy to get free to play more publicity, I guess, to make it, have a full relaunch as a new product that's now free to play and get your loot boxes for the money you would have spent on the game.
Well, what it really was a ploy for is to allow them to make the game free to play, but not piss off all the people who already paid for Overwatch 1 by saying that they were essentially buying the PvE of Overwatch 2, because that's the new thing. Sure. It's like, you've already bought this, but now the base game is going to be free.
And the fact that Overwatch 1 owners will, because it's like pay to unlock heroes, it's one of those systems.
Well, yeah, that as well.
Yeah, so Overwatch 1 players will have every Overwatch 1 hero unlocked for them.
That's probably not worth as much as the whole other part of the game that they were theoretically trying to make.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, it's a little bit of a... I mean, it's hard to know. Like, because if you were to go... I don't know what the pricing is for Overwatch 2, but I wonder if you came in fresh and wanted to unlock all of the Overwatch 1 stuff, like how much money you'd actually have to spend.
Probably a lot.
Probably a lot, yeah. Probably more than a $60 price tag or whatever.
Yes, but that's just all skin unlock systems. They're never going to actually give you a reasonable game price amount of stuff.
No, not until a bit later, because that's what Killer Instinct did eventually, because that was followed this model, right?
Right.
Like, it was I don't think it was free to play. I can't remember how it launched, but I think you had to buy into a little something. But then it went free to play, and then you could buy characters as they came out. But eventually they just released well, here's the everything pack, buy this and you'll get everyone, go nuts. Which is something other fighting games seem reluctant to do. They always seem to even a long time after launch, it's quite hard to actually just get a pack where it's like, well, how do I get everything for reasonable money? Oh, you can't. Damn you, DLC. I was reminded this week, actually, of Asura's Wrath, because it's like Xbox had a backwards compatibility sale, and I didn't realize Asura's Wrath was one of the back compat games, and it's like, I've kind of always wanted to play that thing because it sounds mental, and it's basically just a giant quick time event, so you finish it in a nice afternoon. But then that was the game where they locked the last actual episode of the story behind DLC. The game didn't conclude unless you bought a DLC pack, which is conveniently also on back compat. But that's so weird, right? That they did that. So money grabbing.
I don't know if it was intentional. When you say the story didn't finish, it's probably was more like they left a cliffhanger, and maybe they were thinking they were going to make a sequel, but then they did not get to make a sequel.
I don't know. Having not played it, I don't know what it is, but I remember there being quite a lot of anger around how that was structured.
But it's not like
it's more of a bigger deal than it's like.
It's not like the ending was available to purchase from day one.
No, but I think. Well, actually, I think it was pretty close from what I remember. It was a very short time span, I think, between the game's launch and the extra episode being available on the store. Anyway, I believe that was a thing. Overwatch 2. I still haven't played it, to be honest, and I was quite a fan of Overwatch 1. I just don't feel driven to. I don't know why. Just don't feel driven to give it a go. And this isn't helping.
No.
Moving on then. Right. So Sega have kind of let slip that they too are interested in this new landscape of $70 games, which in itself probably isn't much of a surprise. A lot of publishers are now on that bandwagon. It's slightly interesting in the fact that this news is in the same period of time that Sony have apparently come out and stated that their switch to $70 hasn't really affected their sales.
Right.
So they're still making bank, but I guess you could read into that statement in a number of ways. Does that mean the numbers have gone down in terms of total sales, but they're still making the same amount of money, or has everything just gone up? And they're saying it hasn't affected it negatively. I mean, read into that what you will, and we won't know. But yeah, settle in, boys. $70 is here to stay.
Somehow I don't think,
or whatever that translates to in UK terms, like 60 quid, I guess.
Somehow I don't think Sega are going to get to release very many $70 games, because their games are barely worth what they charge at the moment anyway.
Yeah, the only, like, in the Kotaku article about this, the only suggestions were that, like, maybe Sonic Frontiers and Like a Dragon Ishin could have perhaps carried that tag. Maybe. I mean, Frontiers is arguable in itself.
Yeah.
But, maybe when Like a Dragon 8 comes out next year, that'll be when they pull the trigger.
I mean,
don't forget Sega also own Atlas, right? So if another Persona game comes out,
yeah, maybe they could get away with that.
Yeah,
that and Like a Dragon, the games that are like goddamn 50-hour games, then yes, maybe you can get away with 70.
Oh yeah,
but a Sonic game, don't know.
Yeah, questionable, isn't it?
You don't think 7 zones of 2 acts is going to cut it?
Not if it was a traditional Sonic game, no. It's kind of why. It's the first time in a long time. Like, I was trying to think like how many games I buy outright these days, thanks to Game Pass. It's not a lot. And it's been Splatoon 3 and then Tears of the Kingdom, and those are like the only 2 full price launch games I've considered. And it's like, because in my head I've still got that thing. I was like, well, this is going to be worth the money because I'm going to play a bucket load of it. To me, like buying a AAA on launch just on a whim, it's such a risk.
Yeah.
It feels like a risk. Sure. Despite the fact I'll happily pay half that for an order of pizza,
I know.
It's weird how your mind
survive,
works.
Man.
Yeah.
I know. It's true. Yeah, I can't start measuring things by like takeout order because that's like 20 quid a pop or something.
Yeah. I guess I know like with a Domino's that I am going to be satisfied when I put that box down.
But it is only going to take like half an hour.
Exactly.
It's not a 50-hour pizza.
But then, like, would I be satisfied with a 30-minute game? I don't know.
Only in very specific cases, probably.
Yeah. I suppose playing light gun games on the Sinden is actually pretty close to that, I guess.
Yeah.
You just have to play more games. Somewhat convenient because you got to emulate most of them with it. Yeah, so no money's there. That's the news, really. That's all I've really got. And Zach was teasing us with he had some notes that he forgot to bring. Well,
they're not about any other game apart from the one game. They were notes about the one game. But they've announced the date for the next Dirge season. I guess that's news.
Oh yeah. I suppose that is news. Yeah.
And a art image to give you a preview, and obviously it's more Plague. So
some kind of Plague boss, and
presumably,
and jet boots.
Yep, maybe. However, those are going to function in the actual presumably boss fight.
Yeah, because we're a little bit. Yeah, they're going to have to be a little bit careful with the jet boots thing, right? Because traversal is kind of one of the main distinction points between the dwarves. So
well, it's like the problem is like not just the first thing is presumably, my guess is that you're only going to get the jet boots during the boss fight. It's not going to negate the traversal of the rest of the level leading up to that.
Sure.
But then, in that case, what is the gameplay mechanic that the boots are countering?
Yeah.
Why do you need to go up and down and not just run around on the floor during this theoretical boss fight?
Yeah. What is it? What's the thing? It's interesting. It's a different direction, at least.
Well, we don't actually know anything, though. It might not actually be anything. It might just be they might not even be hover boots. They might just be jump boots. It might just give you
really big jumps.
Basically, turn on low gravity just during the boss fight.
That's true. It could just be that. But then, what if you get the modifier for low gravity with those?
Then you get to hit your head on the ceiling a lot.
My thing has always been just add more random stuff. There's more enemies at least.
Well, there are more enemies. Well, apparently, at least 3 from that art. But the other question is, what is the equipment thing that they're doing this time? Because they've always done a set of equipment type stuff each of these patches. It was the new primaries in the first season, the new secondaries in the second season, and the new grenades in the third season. And that's where the big changes can come in. There's been some suspicion that it might be time for new overclocks. But making new overclocks is difficult.
And it's less appealing to the casual player,
yes,
because I'm still in need of overclocks.
I mean, they did do that overclock rebalance where they made you get the overclocks on when you promote, making promotions worthwhile at all.
Yeah, sure.
And also fixing that bug where you could do that anyway, making it legit.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Well, it is now. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. I think overclocks is really the only thing they've got left that feels like it needs more stuff. I mean, obviously, new weapons would be fine.
Yeah, but what about? I mean, there's other equipment types that perhaps they could add overclocks to, or
could they though?
I don't know. Let them think. Let them
I mean, they could
extra flare power, or
but that's not going to be overclocks. That's going to be upgrades, right? They should bring back the flare upgrade tree on the equipment screen because it has a button for it that doesn't do anything at the moment and never has since.
And they can always expand what is in the tiers of upgrades.
Yeah, I mean, but that would be that's an even less exciting upgrade than more overclocks in terms of content.
I suppose because it's less weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just go weird, man.
Well, that's what overclocks are for.
Yeah, just go mad.
And then there's always someone who's like, "What about a fifth class? Because then you could do something totally different."
I mean, yeah,
but you'd have to make you'd have to make 3 new primary weapons and 3 new secondary weapons and the equipment,
a whole bunch of skins
and a bunch of overclocks. That'd be a lot of work than just making the 1 new primary weapon for each class like they did last time.
Sure, yeah, that is a lot more work. It's a small team.
And what if it ruined the balance? If you have 5 classes and only 4 slots in a team,
they fix it eventually. It's fine.
I mean, it doesn't actually matter anyway because you can easily just play with 4 of the same classes. It's fine.
Yeah. It's all good. Oh, that's probably the news then.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, I mean, PlayStation are kicking off E3 on Wednesday.
Well,
not E3.
Yeah, I guess.
Summer Game Fest, the Summer of Game News.
I mean, are we sure this is going
again?
Is this going to be their main one, or is this just a pre one?
I think this is the showcase.
Okay.
I think the showcase is the one on Wednesday. So a day after this podcast goes up, assuming I'm on form. So yeah, there'll be news. There'll be more news next time.
Maybe. And then Dan got really quiet for some reason.
Incredibly quiet. Yeah, I can't hear a thing. All I heard was wah. He's turned into Wario.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Oh, what the hell happened? I said wah. 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 What have you been playing?
Oh, is that what the section's now called? It's wah. It's short for what have you been playing?
Wah.
WH. Why? That doesn't quite work.
YVV?
Warb.
Should have called it Tis the Wario.
You're going to love it.
Oh, I'd play that.
You're going to love it.
I don't know. I've played a Wario game, actually, other than WarioWare.
Well, maybe you should play Pizza Tower then.
Yeah.
Because then you're basically playing Wario.
Yeah, playing Wario 4
Wario Land,
or something like that.
More or less.
Where do you want to start, Dad? Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the one game, or do you want to start with the many other games that exist?
Why, have you been on your retro kick still? Have you?
I have. It continues.
Should we roll through? What else?
Oh, we'll roll through the what else. Okay, so on the retro, let's stick on the, you mentioned it, the retro side. I fired up Croc. Legend of the Gobbos on my PS1.
Why?
Well, because it was
What?
I've kind of always had a fondness for that game.
And it's just like a Donkey Kong 64. It's like
it's not on that level.
Well, no, but it's like it's a similar thing. Which is like this is not as good as Mario 64, but it's a sort of okay-ish platforming adventure game thing.
It's a fairly early 3D platformer, Croc, and to the point where it hasn't got the control quite right.
Yes,
if you played it without an analog stick on your PS1, it's basically tank controls. And if you put the analog mode on, then it's sort of camera based, but a bit weird and odd. But it's charmingly made. It's made by Argonaut is the other thing that I always forget. Like Argonaut, the makers of Star Fox, made this thing. That's so weird to me. And it's a little platformer game. You move your croc around, you attack, you get crystals. You're looking for these little furry dudes called gobos, and it's kind of better made than it has any right to be. It's in that sort of like Spyro the Dragon kind of look to it.
Right, yeah. I was thinking of Spyro, yeah.
It's not as good. It's not nearly as good as Spyro, if I'm being honest. Like it's got like some technical limitations. Like the levels are quite little room based, I suppose. So like a level will be a string of little rooms, and as you go through these doors between sections, there's a little loading pause and stuff like that. So it's a little technically limited. But it looks nice. The animations are pretty sweet. Like I'm surprised actually going back, having played like a lot of other PS1 games. I haven't had a whole bunch of actual like 3D animation in them because I guess I've been playing racing games. A bit of me was just like, oh, this is actually Croc actually animates pretty well. He looks quite nice. It's pretty cute. And like there's a nice intro sequence. There's a nice intro cutscene. There's little cutscenes before and after every boss fight, and it's all surprisingly well made. Aside from the odd glitch that I've had, which have been like kind of catastrophic in some ways. Like I had one level where it didn't load the textures, so it was all like flat surfaces, which was kind of weird. And I had one section in the ice world where it didn't correctly load the sound effect for Croc foot hitting ice. And instead replaced it with a long tone. So as I was walking around the world, it was just going. They all kind of like layered on top of each other and made this horrible noise. And it's like, well, I'm going to mute in this room. It fixed itself eventually, but that was kind of funny. And the music is pretty sweet. Like they're odd, like 1 minute, not even loops. That just sort of fade out and then play again. So that's, I guess, a little limitation, but they're kind of well made. They've got a sort of like what if Wallace and Gromit was funky kind of vibe to them. Game's all right.
What if Wallace Gromit was funky?
Yeah,
cool.
The game's all right. It's super simplistic, but it's pretty well made. I say it's early. I don't know if they had while they were making this. I guess they probably didn't have Mario as a reference, so it's not quite yet.
Really? Was it even earlier than? Well,
I don't think it was earlier, but it might have.
Wasn't out.
Yeah, it might have been being developed at the same time. I guess.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, they really knocked it out of the park with Super Mario 64, didn't they? Yeah, got it right the first time. Yeah.
They did make a sequel to Croc that I haven't got, so I wonder if they then went back and applied some Mariofication to it. But yeah, it's all right. It's a nice. It's chill. What else have I been doing? I did get Ridge Racer Type 4 out, but I haven't actually got around to playing it. So I'll treat myself to that at some point. I finished Ni no Kuni. Or I say finished. Like,
how much did you force yourself to finish it?
Well,
how many side quests went unfinished?
So, basically, like 2 side quests that I know of, I didn't do because they were irritating. One in particular was like, you need to capture these specific creatures, except he gives you vague descriptions of those creatures, and I don't know exactly what he's after, so I didn't do that one. And that was there was one other one, but that was a little bit irritating because I just didn't have the materials for it. But that was all I was missing before taking on the final boss fight, which sort of turned out to not be the final boss fight. And then I was like, oh, this game's not over. But I guess that makes sense because there's these hanging plot threads, and it's like, so what now? Oh, we'll go do a quick another few fetch quests and some boss fights, and then you'll go to a big old final area and do the real boss fight. It's like, okay, it was like a fake out ending. It's like, yeah, everything's done. Oh no, it's not done. It's not done. Introducing zombies. It pulled that card at one point.
Yeah, right. Okay, fair.
And then it weirdly for an RPG of this style, it then goes, well, now you can make a completed game save and go back into the world, and there'll be more to do. And it's like, okay, fine, let's have a little look at this. And sure enough, it did that thing that I talked about like earlier, and that there's one of the side quests that unlocks after the game. I don't understand why it does this. Like, why not? It's quite annoying. Like, why don't just have these side quests available whilst you're at that point in the game? Because like it does that thing where you can suddenly a side quest opens up where you can talk to a kid and he's like, oh, there's these treasure points all about the map, and and you need to go to these places, and then you suddenly realize to yourself, I've been to most of those places, and it's those stones that I walk up to and that have writing on them, and I go, well, I wish I could read this. And then you take on that side quest and you walk up to the very same stone and you go, I can read this. And it's like, God damn it. Why couldn't I have like organically discovered that stuff? It does that quite a few times. And there's like some epic every boss in the game reappears, and you can go do harder versions of those to unlock some extra area that I haven't been into. There's a mysterious door with a bunny man protecting it. It gets kind of weird. Like I think overall, that game could have done with a little bit more time in the oven just to refine, because I don't think any of its systems really end up paying off. That's kind of the core problem of it. None of it ever felt like it got to a position where it made sense. So like the Pokemon thing is, the fact that you can have like 1 billion different familiars is kind of cool. That's probably the most successful element of it, but it kind of doesn't work with its combat style, where you're only really controlling one of your party members and your AI teammates are dumb as hell, just spewing off random magic and burning all their magic points, and then deciding to attack with their weakest weapon rather than getting their Pokemon out and fighting with them. They're really stupid. They continue to be really stupid throughout the entire game. But then the game's also constantly encouraging to use Oliver, your main character's like magic to do stuff, or like use magic to defeat this enemy in this specific way, Mr. Drippy will say. And you go, great, I'll do that. Oh wait, no, I don't actually have the magic to do that. How have I missed the trick? How have I not got the thing you're asking me to do? Okay, I guess one of my familiars might have it. Oh, yeah, I've got lucky. Right, my familiars have it. Okay, let's do that. Oh my god, how many magic points does that cost? Like all of them. I never felt I had enough magic points to do the things that I was being encouraged to do. If you do enough side quests towards the back end of the game, you can unlock this ability, which is just described as unlock the hero within, which gives you 100 extra magic points and 100 extra health points as a boon. Like, as if, to save you from some grinding, I guess, to achieve the same effect. And then it felt a little bit better. But still, it's like, using magic is, I ended up with like over 300 magic points, and some of the most effective magic I had was taking up like 50 magic points to use. So it's like, well, I can't use this very much. And also, it's not as effective as I would like it to be. None of the magic ever felt really as effective as the game was like encouraging it to be. It's really odd. Like, it just doesn't. It feels like something was like fundamentally missing in the balance there. And the same goes for the material system. because it's like you have this like alchemy thing. I don't know if I mentioned before, where you can mix and match like random materials you find and make other things.
Yeah,
I say random things. There are recipes. You need to look up the recipe. If you don't get the recipe right, you get nothing. You
don't even get dubious food.
No, you don't get dubious food. You get nothing at all. So it's and it encourages you to use that system to the point where there's a ridiculous achievement for making 120 different items using the alchemy system. But I never had the materials, like either from fights or from finding them in the world. I never had enough stuff to really engage with that system. And then you get to the end game, and then there's a few more side quests open up, like that you can find the master of alchemy or something. He's like, yeah, go make this thing. And you realize, oh, it's not that far up the tier list. Okay, that's cool. I could probably go make one of those. Oh no, I don't have any of the materials for this thing. Like, and I've been playing this game for 60 hours and somehow I don't have any of the stuff you need. It's got some flaws, is what I'm saying. It's got some flaws. I had an okay time. And I will say, to its favour, the thing I talk about since I think I can't remember when I came up with this theory. Probably when we were talking about GTA 4, right back in the day. It's like it has the draw, like it does pull you back. I kind of couldn't really. I found myself wanting to go back to it, and I couldn't really step away.
Just when you thought you were out,
yeah,
it pulls you back in.
Obviously, until I started playing Tears of the Kingdom, of course, and then that.
Lucky you'd already finished it.
Then that took over the draw, But I'd finished it. I had Tears of the Kingdom sat on the shelf, and was just like, and just went back to it for a couple more days.
Well, that's because you hadn't started.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I guess you had.
Well, I sort of had, yeah. But like, I went back to Ni no Kuni like for a few more days, like before, and then I kind of realized, boy, is it harsh with achievements as well. So like I've got 200 out of the 1,000 achievement points for that game after 60 hours. And as far as I can tell, all of the rest of them are super hardcore requirements that I am never going to do. And it's just like, well, screw it.
No.
It's like, I'm kind of intrigued to see what some of these last side quests might do differently. Like I do want to see what's behind Bunnyman's door. But that's quite an effort at this point to go and do. I don't know if I can be asked. So Zelda. Happened.
Yeah. So what happened?
And in other sort of other Nintendo news, I suppose, my copy of Star Fox 64 kind of started. Star Fox 3D, I should say. Star Fox 64 3D. That's it. That's what it's actually called. That started working again.
Okay, somehow.
I don't know what changed. I kind of
contacts drained off sufficiently.
I left it alone for a while, and then it started working. So I've been playing a bit of that again. It has this mode in it that it's basically a score attack mode, and you can earn medals by getting a certain score on each level. Those are hard. Like I can't even get the bronze on most of them. Like it's those are insane targets. There's clearly something I've been missing in Lineup Wars all these years. It's just like, here's how you actually play the game, kind of. I've played that game quite a bit, and those targets seem mad. But I'm glad it's working again, so that's good. I also tried playing it with the gyro controls, which I hadn't done before,
right.
And that's actually quite good, as it turns out, because it doesn't disable using the sticks. The stick, sorry, to actually do the traditional control. The gyro controls are kind of add like a Splatoon-like layer to it,
better than they did on the Wii U.
Yeah, so you can find they're more fine. So like you can use the stick to do the broad movements, and then use the gyro to do subtle adjustments, and that actually works pretty well. And because I'm using a new 3DS, like I can have the 3D on, and it tracks surprisingly well.
Right.
Cool. Through all that. So yeah, don't skip the gyro controls. They seem good. That game's good. But it does. The more I've been playing this version of it, the more it bothers me that the explosions aren't just weird glowy orange spheres like they were on the 64.
Oh right.
Because they've kind of just replaced them with like standard ass looking explosions, and it's like, no, I want my big weird glowy spheres.
Yeah.
I mean, it still has the same sound effect.
It does have the same sound effect.
It still goes.
Yeah, that kind of. That sort of like, decreasing filter, I suppose. That low pass filter on noise kind of effect.
That sound effect suits glowing exploding spheres.
Yeah, because they hang around for a while. Like it's missed opportunity, man.
Or not exactly. It's like a badly taken opportunity.
Yeah,
because they changed something.
It's like when we talk about that, that Halo 2 remaster, right? It's like, as good as that is, there's the odd little bit here and there where you can't help but think, I wish I'd left that how it was. Especially Halo 1, right? You have the thing with Halo 1, right? Where it's
the Halo 1 is like the whole game is like that should have been left how it was, pretty much. But Halo 2 is a pretty good job, to be fair.
Yeah, it's not bad, but you do find those little details here and there where it's like, I think that looked better in the original. And it's like, this is like the one thing that I kind of have a problem with in this one. Also, I'd forgotten how hard it is to actually pull off the like meteor to psychedelic lad skip route. I've been trying to do that route and I've not been able to pull it off on this for some reason. Maybe they've made that harder in this version. I don't know.
Maybe that's why you can't get the scores.
Yeah, I definitely. Well, on that level for sure. I'm sure that's where most of the points lie. Is going through that the psychedelic tunnel. Star Fox 64 3D. It's a good game. Make more good Star Fox.
We'll make more at all.
Ugh. Well, no, don't just make more at all. We'll end up with 0. Which I liked at first and then kind of disliked over time.
Like Star Fox Adventures 2.
I mean, that would probably be okay. I mean, and it might, given how they're talking about Zelda at the moment, that might be the close. If you like old school Zelda, that might be the one route like Nintendo has.
What, you think they'd make it? Take the Zelda concepts even more into Star Fox Adventures and just make that like the Mario Luigi versus Paper Mario kind of thing, where it's like we have the RPG tropes, but we put them over here now.
Yeah, I think because they've been talking about basically they've already said like, hey, the Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, this prototype that we've been working against, we're going to continue to do this. They've already come out and said that, I guess. Because why wouldn't you, I suppose, after you've had 2 best games ever?
Yeah.
So that they're not changing the mold anytime soon, so they say.
But they've only technically made like really one game so far.
I mean, arguably, yeah. But if you want a 3D Zelda with the more old school, I guess, linear progression, then you're not going to get that at a Nintendo.
Well,
unless they do something like the 2D Zeldas, right?
Unless they make another Link Between Worlds or whatever.
Yeah. But that's not quite the same thing, right? If you're an Ocarina fan, you're not going to get that. Star Fox Adventures 2, then. That would fill that hole. But someone else would have to make it, right? Ninty's teams probably aren't going to make it.
Who made the first one?
Rare.
Oh, yeah. Wait.
So that's off the table.
Oh, yeah, that was actually them.
Yeah, that was rare ass rare. They were still about and not Microsoft at that point.
Well, I mean, everyone keeps there's still that continuous background rumor of like new Donkey Kong games, so that would be the testing ground because that was also rare, obviously. So
yeah, we don't. I don't think we know what Retro were working on before they got pulled onto the Metroid 4 project, the Metroid Prime 4 project, right? Because they were working on something. And then just kind of got yoinked onto Metroid after whatever disaster happened behind the scenes. If Retro Studios they're not the same Retro. I should point out they're not the same Retro Studios they were during the original Metroid Prime days.
Well, none of these studios are.
No, time marches on, so it's not the same. It's not the exact same crew. Because do you remember Recore? That was supposedly made by ex-Retro devs, and you can tell there's a sort of lineage. There's a feel to that game that feels a bit Metroidy, like how its aiming works and stuff like that. And we're not going to see another one of those, even though that game landed on such a damn cliffhanger. Anyway, I've meandered. Tears of the Kingdom time.
It's time. It's Zelda time. Can I just tell you before we go into Tears of the Kingdom that I had my friend come over yesterday who'd never played any Zelda games or hadn't really played, and I was like,
"But like
you
any
play Breath
Zelda
of the Wild
ever,
ever?"
Okay.
Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, I got a Switch, or someone gave me a Switch as a present." She got one of those, the light one that can't dock or whatever. The with the attached, and it's pink or whatever reason. Anyway, but I was like, oh well, and my brother had got Tears of the Kingdom, accidentally got 2 copies, so I was like, oh, I'll buy his second physical copy of Tears of the Kingdom, and then you come over, play. We'll see how you do with the Great Plateau, basically, and then I'll lend you Breath of the Wild, and you can carry on, and then I'll play Tears of the Kingdom. That was the plan. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to see for someone who I was like, I didn't know to watch, but she doesn't play games at all, really. But I thought, hang on, is this going to be? I thought Breath of the Wild, that's obviously awesome, but like, are they going to just immediately get stuck, like not being able to control the third-person camera or whatever? And actually, it was totally fine, and she got through the whole Great Plateau.
Okay, cool.
Died a few times in hilarious ways. Fired a bomb arrow right next to an enemy, right next to a bunch of explosive barrels, which is hilarious. Obviously fell off the tower at the start, right? Because that's a bit unfair, actually, because the first tower, maybe I'm missing a trick, but that's before you can teleport, and it goes up, and you're on the top of the tower, and you can't paraglide off it. So you basically have to climb down it, which you never have to do for the rest of the game, right?
Well, yeah, but that tower specifically designed so you can just run off each of the individual platforms and drop directly onto the next one.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, exactly. But she managed to fall off. But yeah, so the one thing was she could control the camera walking around, but once she got into combat, that went out the window. And so she would fight a group of 3 enemies, and it happened a couple of times that she would kill 2 of them, but there would still be one alive, but it was behind the camera or whatever.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But the battle music was still going, and she didn't realize why.
Well, that is sort of a problem with with both of these games. Is that like
still a problem?
The Z targeting doesn't affect the camera really.
No,
like you still have to manage that yourself.
Because, but I think both Zach and I have a slight. We both kind of have this problem because we've been playing a lot of Hyrule Warriors. That I wish it had the target switching of that Hyrule Warriors has, and it's like
they haven't
I keep
improved
trying
that,
to do it.
Not out of check, because it's a bit odd, because I feel like Ocarina's head targeting was better, to be honest, than some of this stuff. But anyway, or it's more integral.
I mean, that one definitely pulled the camera around a lot more.
Yeah, it did. I mean, the whole dramatic widescreen letterboxing and everything, and the whole thing. And it had the
I guess
physical,
it was more necessary as well, because you didn't have a second stick.
Yeah.
Yes,
exactly. That's why it was necessary. But yeah, it's kind of completely optional in Breath of the Wild, and then seems like continuing into Tears of the Kingdom.
I have noticed.
Yeah, because I thought.
I have noticed. Well, I'm not sure if this is actually different from Breath of the Wild, but it seems like they maybe like auto lock you a bit more. Like even if you're not Z targeting something, if you attack, Link just sort of attacks towards the nearest thing anyway, which kind of helps.
Yeah, a little bit like a loose Batman-y kind of effect.
Yeah,
which is sensible.
Yeah. So yeah, and I was interested to compare, because because she's a UXer,
okay,
as in a user experience designer, and so I was like, oh, this is gonna be interesting, because I feel like Breath of the Wild has a very clever tutorial where it doesn't frog march you through things like other games. It gives you freedom and lets you but within the bounds of the Great Plateau, right? It's very nicely designed to kind of point you, oh, you should probably go over there, but you don't have to do things in any particular order, and it like teaches you all the individual things kind of separately. And I was, I was like curious, like if I don't prompt her at all, which I didn't as much as I could, how would it go? And yeah, it's really cool. And I thought it would be interesting, from a kind of, because it's the same problem as trying to teach someone to teaching someone to play a game is the same problem as trying to teach someone to use any software, right?
Sure,
You need to explain the features without doing a stupid one of those goddamn tours, when you try and use the new software and it's like, no, you need to look at this. This does this. And it's like,
new features.
Fuck off with the tour. Yeah. No, just let me play with it. And that's what Breath of the Wild did so well. And then I played Tears of the Kingdom and I was like curious, which I still haven't got through the tutorials. I've only just started, to be honest. I think I've got to the cave and whatever, the first cave or whatever. So that's as far as I got.
Probably about halfway through that thing.
Yeah, first two
through
shrines.
The tutorial. Yeah, I've done the first 2 shrines, and I got to cave. But like that's, I don't know. I mean, it's beautiful and everything. We'll get into it, but if I just talk about the tutorial, it's almost a bit more guided than the Breath of the Wild one.
I found it more linear, but less good.
Yeah.
Weirdly,
yeah.
Like there's something about the Sky Island just didn't feel quite as. Yes, just something about this game in general hasn't quite struck me as feeling as friendly and intuitive as Breath of the Wild did.
Well, I think one of the problems is actually the like map of the tutorial. They wanted to put all these separate floating islands and have some verticality even at that point, even though you don't have a paraglider.
Sure.
But that means the map has like a bunch of overlapping shit, which actually makes it more difficult to understand what you're looking at.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
because it's not that map isn't 3D and doesn't let you like segment it out to see stuff. You have, and you're kind of left to figure out that the color is its way of indicating height, right? Which is less obvious because it's on the islands rather than on a nice undulating bit of land.
Yeah.
Right. I haven't figured that out yet, for example. I mean, I only just started, having the little, I mean, they're cute and everything, but having the little friendly robot dudes who talk you through things, that's a bit more like, a normal
telling you what to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's a bit more. Yeah, maybe they realized that they needed a bit more guidance, but I don't know. I thought it was great, like the Breath of the Wild tutorial. So
I mean, you can miss talking to those guys because I didn't.
Oh, sure.
I missed the one that told you how to cook. Apparently,
well, that guy is in a bit of the backwards, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's in a little hut, isn't he, or something?
Yeah,
he's
one of the ruined buildings, just in the wooded area.
Yeah. Yeah. And I fucked up the guy teaching me to hunt. I missed with my first arrow, obviously. But anyway.
You need to hunt. I don't think I did that.
No, you went straight. I think you missed him as well.
Yeah. I don't remember that. Yeah.
So Jess actually got the warm doublet,
right,
which is the kind of extra bit, like because I always like to get the meat. I always go back to the wood and hunt the deer. But she just shot a pigeon and got like bird meat like immediately and made the spicy meat and seafood fry because you'd already caught a fish.
Right. And usually the fish is the problem. Like.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, arguably. Depending on how you interpret it, when it sort of does imply that you need actual meat, and you wouldn't necessarily know that the bird meat does work.
The bird meat. Well, I didn't know that it would work, but it totally did work, and it was like, oh yeah,
I don't do any of this. This is the kind of the problem, right? Like, and kind of the great thing about it, like I didn't do any of this segment. I didn't hunt deer.
That's Breath of the Wild. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
But that's Breath of the Wild. Sorry, but because in the Sky Island there's just like emu bird type things, right? So far,
and you never.
I didn't see a deer on the Sky Island.
It doesn't require you to
that's in Breath of the
do
Wild.
that. That's the other thing in Tears of the Kingdom.
No,
it's there to tell you about shooting animals, I guess, but you don't need that meat for anything.
You don't need the warm doublet in. You can just eat spicy food and go up the mountain. But I find it I think that would have been annoying having the time limit.
Well, but the thing about that is in Breath of the Wild that like. The tutorial that tells you about cooking is the place that also gives you the side quest for the warm doublet anyway.
Wait.
Yes,
roll back a second. What is the warm doublet?
It's that shirt that you get to give you cold resistance.
There's a freaking cold resistance shirt? Oh, mate.
In the tutorial area, there's a cold resistant shirt.
Well, okay, I'm going back there.
You just need to...
That's Breath of the Wild, though.
That's Breath of the Wild.
Oh, okay.
In Breath of the Wild.
I'm still getting confused.
In Breath of the Wild.
I'm still getting confused.
I played that with my friend. Presumably you don't need cold resistance like in... Well, I don't know yet. In the tutorial of...
I still think I ate spicy food in Breath of the Wild, actually thinking about it. I still don't think I had the warm doublet when I did the cold stuff when I did the tutorial for that either. So I think I missed it.
Well, that's what I mean. Well, that's the normal way to do it, because it's like an extra thing to get the warm clothing. Because as you go into the cold area in the tutorial of Breath of the Wild, like there's tons of spicy right there.
But if you didn't know how to cook, you wouldn't necessarily know what to do with those.
No, that's true.
There is a pot right there as well, but like the actual tutorial that explains like hold it in your hands is where the warmed up request is.
That's true. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I thought that was cool, and we'll see how she gets on with Breath of the Wild. But on to Tears of the Kingdom. But I thought it was kind of interesting to compare and contrast the tutorial.
Yeah, did she have much like game literacy in general? Or
I'll tell you one thing that I thought was really funny, is she'd never played Zelda, and every time she solved a puzzle in a shrine, it would make the Zelda puzzle solve jingle. But she had never heard that in her life, and she interpreted that as like an alarm threat kind of sound, like because it's in. She was like, "This is like a minor key or something, or it's got a tritone in it or something, and it sounds like spooky or something." So every time she would jump, every time it went, and I've like been conditioned since childhood for that to mean total success, right? And like satisfying puzzle solved. Right. Yeah, but every time she heard it, she was like, "Oh, what's that?" It's like, you need to learn that is the success sound.
Yeah, interesting, because I guess in the early Zelda games that would be accompanied with some obvious prompt on screen that you just acquired this thing.
Yeah, because in Breath of the Wild often it's just you've got to the other side of an area and it just plays.
Yeah, so that's almost even worse than Tears of the Kingdom. Like literally the first shrine where you just like you put them down on a plank and walk over a hole and it plays that sound. It's like that's maybe a bit much.
You did a thing.
Yeah. I suppose it's getting you in the Zelda spirit, but like still. I thought that was really interesting that isn't like necessarily obviously a success jingle, because for me it's like a very satisfying sound, but maybe I've just always heard it like that. It's
fascinating.
Since Ocarina, or
No, I guess why I asked like what a game literature is like because I mean what other stuff does she play, because it's like how much of was she pulling from other games?
I don't think she does.
Interesting.
I can ask her.
That's pretty.
She doesn't use the Switch at all.
Right. Because that's quite impressive in a way. Actually,
I know.
Like because it's like
Yeah, I was impressed. Like I thought it would be. That's why I was so interested to see. But I thought it would be much more trouble. But she didn't really have trouble.
It's quite rare you come across, or in my experience anyway, that you come across someone who's not a gamer and then you hand them a controller and they take to it. Something as complex as this, anyway.
Because when she was starting, she was like, "Damn, this is going to be so embarrassing," or whatever. And I was like, "No, don't worry." I was like, I had backup because I was like, "Well, if you can't play this and you can't do," I was like, my thought was, if you can't handle the camera on this game, we'll just play Untitled Goose Game or whatever. That was my backup or whatever. Or if worse comes to the worst, I could just play. We could try and play Into the Breach together, like we did on YouTube, and I could even lift it. But anyway, it was no problem. So
impressive,
interesting. So, Tears of the Kingdom.
I mean, it's very good.
It's very good.
This is us setting up for the Saladcast bit where we're about to bitch about a bunch of the nitpicks. Apart from that, it's real good.
It is really, really good. As I think, as I mentioned before, like I don't think it's been quite as smooth an introduction to this game as Breath of the Wild was. Like, and I think it's fine for me because I've played Breath of the Wild, right? Like, there's a lot of familiarity, even though I haven't touched Breath of the Wild in 6 years or something to that effect. It's like there's a lot of familiarity here, and I'm still a bit crap at like my combat skills in particular are poop, and I need to refine those back in. Like, be a lot more. I'm just a little bit too gung ho at the moment. It's just like, get in there, shove a stick in his face. Oh, that doesn't really work. And now I've been one shot by something. Oh, this game's harsh at times.
Yes. Yeah, Can be, yeah.
It does function a bit like Breath of the Wild, where it is actually kind of difficult at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've forgotten kind of that part of it, and it's like I'm excited
you really are
when I get
right at the start.
Yeah, I'm excited when I get a bit of clothing that's got like 1+1 on it, like, and it's just like, ooh, I can survive.
Yeah,
I can survive it. I can survive a slightly tiny bit better now. And then you just come across a harder enemy that still one shots you, and you're like, no, for the love of. Been quite a bit of that going on. Just being one shot by things. It's hard to. I will try and be spoiler free here. Like, obviously, I don't want to ruin it for anyone. But it's like there were definite moments after. Obviously, like you need to go back down to the surface of Hyrule at some point, and
for sure.
And almost immediately after doing that, I felt. I mean, the game gave me a waypoint marker to say go here, but the area you land in is pretty open. There's not really a channel. It's like it's a big ass field.
Right, land in the field, yeah.
And it's just I could go in any direction I want right now. Let's have it. Let's go. Let's do that. Let's go off in this direction.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, bad things are over here that I cannot possibly deal with. Let's try this direction. Right. Oh, bad things are over here that I cannot possibly deal with.
Interesting.
So I had a bit of a panicky start, being like, oh God, can I do anything? And it's like, no, you know what? I'm just going to mainline this for a while.
Oh, that's interesting.
Do that. That would be my advice. Mainline
just do that.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing.
Because I remember, what I did when I first played Breath of the Wild was it tells you, once you get off the Great Plateau, he's like, go east. Right. He says go east. But what I did was I went east and I went through the Dueling Peaks and I kept going east and I ended up at Hatano Village, which is right on the far east, right?
Mm.
And then I went up to the tech lab or whatever. But there's like a thing where there's like a bunch of enemies on a beach there, right on the coast, and it's like get rid of the enemies on the beach. So they were quite high leveled for me when I just started or whatever, and there's a whole bunch of them. So I was like trying to bomb them for ages, and that was like as far east as you can get, like on the map without going into the ocean, right? But then from there, I managed to kill all those enemies, like despite being really underleveled. But then I could see, if I kept looking east, there was a shrine on an island, and I could see a boat. And I was like, okay, I'll go over to the shrine on the island that I can see. I'll get that shrine, and in there is a major test of strength. And at that point, like, it doesn't matter how much you dodge it because you will smash every weapon you have on it, and it won't have enough. It will hardly be. Yeah. So it gave me so much freedom that I just went straight to something that was impossible. But that was right on the edge of the map, not immediately.
So you'd made it quite a way to get to that point.
Yeah. And I just kept going east. I don't know why. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I encountered basically like the first two encounters I had in the field. I won't tell you what they were, but they were new things I wasn't expecting, and it's like, oh God, okay. just oh no, I need to not do this right now. Then, but no, it is a good idea to just stick to the main line for a while. For a while, there will come a point. Yeah. There will come a point where there's multiple things you can do, and at that point, perhaps start making your own choices.
Well, that's the problem that one of the first problems that we're going to talk about that we already basically touched on about how the new plateau feels more linear or whatever, like it's trying to lead you through it more directly. Is that like beyond that, the game is still trying to do that, but also it's an open world game. Like, that's why you should still mainline it. There is a sort of, I mentioned this to Rob, and I'm not going to go into it much for spoiler reasons, but like, there is a kind of obvious reason when you get down to the surface where you're like, this doesn't feel like but it's something that you would only know if you played Breath of the Wild.
Right, yes. Yeah.
You have this thing where you're like, I'm clearly not done with this kind of tutorial.
You know something's missing. Yeah.
Right, okay.
But yeah, and then beyond that, for even further than that, it's like, in some ways the game is trying to be more direct about what you should do. Like, in Breath of the Wild, it would be like, there's these 4 places you have to go, but it doesn't really,
I mean, that still happens.
Yeah, well, yes, but I mean, in Breath of the Wild, it's just like, there's these 4 places you can go, but it doesn't really mention any specifics about that.
It's somewhat. How does it do it? But it's somewhat obvious that you should go to the Zora's Domain first.
It's really just the layout of the map.
Is it just because you're near?
Yeah,
it's because you come from Kakariko and you go up to where the Zora's Domain is, which also conveniently branches up to Death Mountain, but it draws you into Zora's Domain because of the NPCs down that route, or the Zora NPCs who tell you to keep going that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's using its line of sight trick because you go, oh, there's something over there.
The tower is right there next to where Sidon is.
Right, it's right there, the tower. That must be it. It's really clever. Anyway,
I would argue that line of sight trick just really hasn't been... I haven't felt that this time.
Well, no, and that's why I'm like... It's this weird problem of this game battling between people who played Breath of the Wild and new players for some reason, even though this is a sequel. They seem to be trying to cater to new players quite a lot. But then if you
suppose after 6 years, there's literally kids who were too young.
Of course.
There will be new players. Right? That's obvious. Yeah. But like, if you have played Breath of the Wild, in some ways you need to like unlearn some stuff. Whereas maybe I shouldn't assume that things are going to go this way.
I mean, conveniently for me, the unlearning hasn't been too bad because like 6 years away from the game, I've kind of forgotten how that map is.
Yeah.
Like, despite, the little hints I get from... I mean, I know the rough layout of where things are, but I don't know I don't know the lay of the land, man. I don't know the curves and the undulations. So me going back through it, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot this was here. Oh yeah, no, this is kind of like this. So I'm not having too much of that recall, like, oh, it was like this, but isn't anymore problem. I'm literally like, my biggest, as I say, it's just the line of sight trick. I don't feel like I see something, I must go there quite as smoothly as Breath of the Wild did.
I feel like that might be, again, a sort of a problem of having to change the world between the two games. Because, like, obviously the world for Breath of the Wild was designed for all those things to be in those specific places for that reason.
Yeah.
And now that you are like, but we've got to change everything because it's a new world.
It's kind of what makes it like even more like a Majora's Mask in this scenario, right? It's the same, but not like kind of feel. I guess Majora's Mask had a different map, right? It wasn't.
Yeah, it was totally different.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then so there's two more. What I'm going to say are problems that I want to talk about. In vague ways, so we don't have to spoil anything. But like, so problem number one, which is something that I mentioned to Rob when he was playing, is that like they kind of didn't do a very good job with their game design to solve the arrow problem in this game.
Right, yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because
the problem of running out of arrows?
Yes, because you remember in Breath of the Wild, like at the start of the game, you basically don't have any arrows until you go to Zora's Domain, which is usually the first place you go conveniently, and then you harvest the shit ton of arrows all along there. And
then for the rest of the game, I'm just farming arrows whenever I need by doing that exact same route.
Yeah, so even after you've done that once, it's still totally possible to run out of arrows.
I never really had a problem once I'd done that. I never had to go...
I would run out of arrows quite a bit, the normal arrows, and then I realised that other people buy them with rupees, and I'm like, are you mad?
I mean, I did do that occasionally, where it's just like, I just need some.
Yeah, okay.
But so
because you would go back to the Great Plateau, right, to get arrows, is that right?
Well, I ran the Zora's Domain a few times. That's like the easier way to do it. Once you like,
I got quite used to running Zora's Domain, because there's the bit with the electric arrow, stealth, whatever they are, Zalfos guys, not Lizalfos,
Anyway,
and they're like pools of standing water, so you get electrocuted in the
yes,
get caught in the standing water. Yeah.
But that's the problem that they were trying to solve. But then they've
swung hard.
Well, they sort of exacerbated the problem as well because they introduced the fusing arrow system. So they're like, gets rid of all the special arrows, and then they're like, well, holy shit, we can't have people run out of arrows now because otherwise they won't be able to use our fancy new shit.
Yeah, so basically you just have arrows aren't a problem.
Well, so basically what they did is like every breakable crate has arrows in instead of like food and stuff like they used to. And it may not actually be an exaggeration to say that more than half of the chests have arrows in, which is a really unrewarding thing to open a chest and just be like, oh, it's fucking 5 arrows again.
More arrows.
It's like they didn't change that part from the first game, right? It's like a lot of chests had arrows in Breath of the Wild.
Not that many.
But they kind of felt like, oh, that's actually useful.
They were somewhat
a lot of chests in Breath of the Wild had amber in.
Sure.
Which was the disappointing chest reward in that game.
Which is still a thing.
Well, yes, but not nearly as much because now they're all arrows.
Like bomb arrows was a decent reward for a chest, but normal arrows,
But yes, just like there's so many goddamn chests with normal arrows in, and it's just like because every breakable crate and all these chests have arrows in. It's like by the time I was ending the tutorial, it's like, well, I've got fucking 400 arrows. Wow, okay. I'm never going to run out of arrows. So, like, it's a bit of a weak bit of game design to solve that problem where they're just like, well, we don't want people to run out of arrows, so just fucking arrows everywhere. Whereas
super abundant arrows.
What they obviously should have done, because if they're going to give you so many arrows that you end up with like 400 arrows by the end of the tutorial or whatever, so you might as well have infinite arrows. Just give you infinite arrows. Just like give you a Zonai fancy quiver that just generates arrows.
Yeah, that's on like a cooldown or something.
Well, not even a cooldown. Just give you infinite arrows.
Couldn't they like adjust like the drop rates or whatever, or like based on how many arrows you've got, so you get
what make the chest contents of the chest change? I mean, that would be really cool, but that would probably be like
that's not really what the difficult system should be about. But you could change. I mean, that's what that's what a lot of games do about like enemies that drop stuff, right? You know, they'll adjust them subtly.
Yeah, based on what you're scarce on or whatever.
I mean,
like even Zelda would have them drop more hearts when you were low on health, right, in previous games.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that happens in Link's Awakening.
But there's not really much opportunity to do that in this game, I guess. I mean, the enemies change themselves in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Obviously, they level up, so you get better weapons naturally that way. But that's not really for the arrows. But they should have just given you infinite arrows. If they're going to give you so many arrows that they might as well be infinite, then just get rid of the concept of arrows as an item altogether. There's no reason to still have that. So that's my first slight game design problem, which is...
That's a super minor.
Well, yes, obviously. Yeah. These are all super minor.
Sure. Yeah. All nitpicks,
But then the second one is that this isn't... So you're meant to build things... As we well know,
someone really liked Magnesis and were like, we should probably do more of this, and made it basically the game's entire mechanic.
One of them, yes. But so you're meant to build things, and therefore as you explore, you'll come across here's a pile of bits to build something with, and there's a lot of just like piles of wood and stuff around, so you always have like very basic parts. But then occasionally you'll come across, let's say, a place where there might be a traversal puzzle where you have to build a thing, and there's a pile of bits on the floor, and you're like, okay, this is a puzzle. But then what they do in really far too many cases is just put the solution that's made of the same bits right next to it.
Oh, yes, yeah.
It's just like, what that...
I've already seen that a couple times where it's just like, oh, someone's already made the thing. All right. Yeah, fine.
It's just like... You've left this pile of... And it's like literally right next to each other. You've literally... Here are all the parts that this thing is made of adjacent to each other. Why would you do that?
I mean, sometimes it's also a little bit too convenient that where they won't have built the thing, but they'll very clearly have put all the precise bits you need to build a thing to solve the thing.
Well, sure, but
it's not really a puzzle at that point. It's just like...
Well, that is kind of a puzzle because actually getting things to function in the way you want them to is not always super...
I mean, other than my troubles with with one of the items down we've encountered yet, and me trying to get the physics to that to work the first time I used it, and it not quite behaving as I expected. generally it's always been like, oh, here's all the things I need to build the thing to solve this thing. It's pretty obvious what I got to do here, and that's not really a puzzle at that point.
But it's even less of a puzzle if the thing is also just right there.
Oh, sure. I mean,
one thing that confused me about the Ultra Hand, and I don't know if I'm missing something or it's deliberate to make it simpler, but when you're manipulating it and you hold down like the right bumper or whatever, is that right?
Yeah.
Anyway, it feels like you've only got 2 out of 3 axes. So you can pitch and yaw, but you can't roll.
Yeah,
and it's like,
well, it's because you only have 4 buttons.
I need 3.
Yeah,
right, but like,
I wish I had
axes. It's annoying
because doesn't it kind of lock the camera vertically when you're in Master Hand mode? And it's like, well, there you go. There's an axis you could have used.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want 1 axis off a stick and then 4 buttons. That would be really confusing.
I think it would be fine. Like, I'm with you, Dan. I want that 3rd axis because I'm constantly going, how do I get this the way I want? All right, yeah, I've got to line it up with the camera, then I've got to tilt it into the camera. Now I need to rotate it back to where it was.
Then rotate it.
That is like quite. I find that quite frustrating.
Because like you clearly need the 3 there are 3 axes, right? So it's just annoying that you only have 2 available, and you have to anyway. Yeah,
I mean, it wouldn't
because I end up like walking. I've only just started, but I end up like walking around in order to get it in the right orientation, and then falling off a cliff or whatever.
Yeah, I do that.
Falling off the edge of something.
Well, I mean, that's sort of the real problem is that like
maybe while
you actually have a 1 axis via your movement anyway, but that's one of the axes you always already have from the buttons.
Yeah. Maybe holding R should have like changed left stick into the rotation as well, so you're not moving whilst you're in R holding mode. Maybe that would have solved it,
isn't there?
Yeah.
But you do kind of need to be able to hold things and move and rotate them in some cases. It's more about positioning things in the
second modifier, right?
Well,
like you could, you could use the Ultra Hand and move, and you draw it back and forward towards you like the old magnesis. But then when you hold the other one to do the rotation, you could lock one of your own movement axis, at least, like when you're doing that potentially. I don't know. Anyway, it was something I immediately noticed. I was like, no, that's what I said. It's like, it's clearly big to make it simpler. They obviously chose to do it like this, but I'm like, I still feel like there's a missing axis
I miss it. And I seem to have accidentally taught myself the wrong habit with using Master Hand, where if because you tap to go to activate it, and then rotate is a hold, isn't it? When you have to hold R to go into rotation. So then for some reason my mind then maps holding R to being in Master Hand mode because I've held it rather than just tapped it on.
So you're mostly holding both.
So I like the number of times I come out of Master Hand and then my brain goes, right, I need to hold R to do that again, and it goes into throw your weapon, and it's like
that's not even
you immediately chuck.
It's not the same button though. Going into Ultra Hand is on L.
That's what I'm saying. I know it's not that. I logically know it's not that, but my muscle memory isn't working that way for some reason, because there's something to do with the tap to go into Master Hand and hold the R. That for some reason my muscle memory is latching on to the hold more than the tap, and so I'm doing that loads.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, my muscle memory still hasn't escaped trying to push up on the D-pad to change skills.
Change the skills. Yeah, that's really confusing me. Yeah, because what is up on the D-pad? It's like change.
Material list.
Oh, it's materials. Yeah, but that doesn't really do anything. What?
Well, if you want to quickly hold something to then chuck it.
You can drop things from that.
Fuse. Right.
You can't hold things. You can drop things from that wheel
and then fuse.
Fuse, and then this is slightly more subtle, but like if you select something in the materials list, it remembers that selection. So if you then
have it on
go to an arrow or go to throw a thing, it's remembered what you would set it to.
Oh, neat. Okay.
So you can kind of set up what you're going to fuse for arrows.
That's kind of useful
for arrows. Okay, yeah. I did notice this is separate, but I did notice that it offers you, when you open a chest and your inventory is full, it offers you to drop something.
Yes, you can just drop stuff directly.
Which is nice.
I wish there was a way to do that from picking stuff up off the ground. Like if you held A or something when you were trying to pick up something from the ground, then it should show you the drop wheel.
It'll go,
replace. Yeah.
But you can just
Yeah.
hold down the weapon switch button and drop weapons from there. So you can still do that without being in a chest or whatever.
Yeah, it's relatively fast.
Could you do that in Breath of the Wild without equipping the weapon and throwing it?
No, it was just chucking it.
No.
Or
But now
drop
you can
from your
drop,
inventory.
Yeah, there's a drop from the quick menu now, which is nice.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Quality of life, as they say.
Yep.
Although you'll see many people who have played Breath of the Wild before still just chucking stuff instinctually, which is like, just throw that weapon away, or just push the other button. That just
It might be more fun to just throw it,
Yeah.
Chuck it.
Right. Was that what else is on your list, Zach?
I think that was I think we covered the main weird nitpicks.
Yeah.
Like the weird conflict between new players and old players in how the game is designed.
I mean, and if we want to be like probably the biggest, tiniest, nitpickiest thing of all, is that it's Breath of the Wild.
Oh yeah, obviously.
If you want to, do you know what I mean? It's like if you want to talk about like progression of a sequel. There's probably more shared here than any previous Zelda game.
I mean, it is very a sequel. That's the thing.
It's very a sequel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Breath of the Wild's my favorite game ever. So probably I would say. So I'm
just trying to hold it to the same. Hold it to the same light that we do with other sequels.
Well, I mean, how much more sequely is this than like the God of War sequel?
Yeah, it's
well, that's practically the same game.
it's tricky, isn't it? But then it didn't take 6 years to make.
No, that's true.
Yeah, but do the new shit in this game not count for 6 years? I mean, they don't count for the whole 6 years probably, but do they not count for a longer period of time than between the God of War games?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. There's sometimes there's more of a feel thing, like this bit of UI will be different or something like that. There's a lot about Tears of the Kingdom that is wholesale lifted from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot,
but and it's the whole thing.
I
haven't got into it, but
yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say
is like the whole thing is like the fact that they had that foundation is what allowed them to go insane and batshit crazy with all of everything else.
Yeah,
basically, is like if they were starting from scratch like they did with Breath of the Wild. They wouldn't be able to do what the madness that they've done with this, basically, is the thesis, I suppose.
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, there's always going to be pros and cons to this approach. It's just like
absolutely.
There's a little bit in the back of my head that's just going. This is kind of like a 1.5 rather than a 2.
Yeah,
and it's
for sure.
Like it's the Majora's Mask to the Ocarina of Time kind of thing,
Yeah, well, that's what I was kind of hoping for, and honestly, like apart from the fact that Majora's Mask came out like 2 years later rather than 6 years later,
sure. They turned that around pretty quick.
Yeah, but I mean, it was different back in the day, wasn't it? But yeah.
I think there's a bit in my head just going like, it's been this long. Maybe I could have done with something a little more different in some ways.
I mean, that's a good comparison again, and that's what I was hoping is like Majora's Mask is freaking weird. Like tonally, it's very different to Ocarina. Not very different, but it's the weird one. It's the freaky one. And that's what I was kind of hoping from this. But it definitely has a different tone, but it's not like with that weird creepy tone.
I wouldn't say
because that had literally starts. Majora's Mask starts with like body horror, right? Where you get turned into a why have I forgotten what they're called? What's the first mask you get? Into a scrub, Deku scrub. Yeah, you get turned into a Deku scrub, and then it's like it's all melancholy because the whole world is going to be destroyed in 3 days or whatever, every time, and all of that stuff, and just there's loads of weird shit in Majora's Mask. So that's what I was kind of thinking this would be, but it's different. But so far, it's cool. I mean, it again, like they say that the technology has not moved on because how could it? Because it's the same Switch or whatever. But I don't know. It looks beautiful. The clouds are great.
I mean, I did say like when Zach showed me the ending to Breath of the Wild a few weeks back. That it was just like having come off the back of playing Hyrule Warriors for so long that actually then you see Breath in the Wild in action. It's like, oh, this is actually a really smooth and well-running game. I kind of forgotten that.
I mean, it is true that the Ultra Hand does tank the frame rate. Like
sometimes,
there's ways to do that.
Yeah,
and I have encountered the odd graphical glitch here and there. Like there was some pretty nasty water at a distance. It seems pretty incapable of handling. Like it looked real weird from the sky, looking at some shallow water from high up. It was going a bit wrong. There's a few little hiccups here and there, but it's that are probably Switch limitations. But it's generally a very capable looking thing. But then that's also kind of it's weird, isn't it? It's like we're 6 years on. I guess they already maxed out the Switch when they made the first game.
Yeah, they pretty much did. But you can kind of understand that because it is like a mobile chip or whatever, and obviously it wasn't even the best available mobile chip at the time because they were trying to get something economically viable, right, to mass produce and whatever, and make a profit on. Yes, at least not make a loss on the hardware.
But I think the X2 did come out slightly after Switch did. So, yeah, I guess it makes sense that Switch 1 would pick the chip that's been about.
But it's kind of crazy that, like, that I would say probably the average person has a phone in their pocket more powerful than the Switch, right?
In this day, probably.
Yeah.
Or maybe not most, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it didn't make the right calls with the Switch, but yeah, it's starting to show its age, and
sure.
It's kind of amazing what they managed to pull out of the bag with those first run of games. It's never really been bettered visually.
Yeah.
I know there's some supposed trickery that Nintendo have access to that other developers don't, which might explain why Nintendo games look so much better than everyone else's. It's like they work to the metal of that chip, whereas everyone else is working through an API layer to do some stuff. There's something about that anyway. It's like it's not. I imagine that's not strictly true, but like people using middleware, for instance, like in Unreal or Unity engine, like are probably having more trouble squeezing performance out of it than Nintendo.
Yeah, it was interesting how Link's Awakening was done with Unreal and had performance problems despite being like obviously a 2D Game Boy port, but not or whatever remake.
Naturally, we'll be playing a lot of that over. I mean, the physics stuff is kind
of
fun. Like, you must have come across one of the like core. If you come across the Korok friends,
the first Korok, I found,
So
with a big backpack or whatever,
There's quite a few of those.
Well, of course, it's Koroks.
I mean, not just Koroks, but like, they're like Koroks interfacing with the physics system. So get used to building stuff. You're gonna need it, and it's sometimes hilarious and sometimes just, oh god, really? Like it's just these little moments sometimes where it's just like, do I really have to do that?
I mean, that's what I've been encountering with those. It's just like, can I be bothered to do this now, or shall I just stamp a mark on the map and come back later?
Really? It's got to that bad, has it?
Well, it's because it's the classic problem of like, I'm going somewhere, and then there's this car, and it's like, no, you need to take me over here. And it's like, well, I'm not going in that direction, so you can stay there for now. I'll come back later.
I mean, there's definitely been some funny ones dealing with those. Contraption's gone wrong kind of moments.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if we discussed it, but the first thing I saw on Twitter was people crucifying the Koroks, obviously.
Oh, yeah, you can do that. People attaching them to rockets and just firing them into the sky.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't you?
Because why not?
Now, let me tell you. The two important reasons why this game is actually 0 out of 10.
Oh, no. Spicy.
Tell me why.
I understand that these are jokes.
Spicy meat and seafood fry.
Not actual reasons. Reason number one, the one that Rob is most clearly going to be most disappointed about.
Uh-huh.
Robbie doesn't have guitar riffs.
He does not.
Or at least so far.
What?
I haven't seen the end of everything to do with Robbie yet, but still no guitar riffs.
Not a single electric guitar has occurred.
So that's obviously terrible.
It was deeply disappointing.
I'll tell you what I randomly looked up or found out today and tried is that the guitar chord for Sam arriving in Clarissa Explains It All.
Oh, right.
Right.
It is a D ninth chord, and I tried playing it, and it's perfect. It's a D ninth, which is it's just that extra layer. And I've got
it's got a whammy bar,
whammy arm on the whammy bar on it. It's like, oh man, that's perfect. Anyway,
and then
sorry.
Reason 2 that this game is clearly a 0 is that it disobeys the universal game rule.
Or put stuff in holes.
Yeah, it directly disobeys the universal game rule.
I mean, I've had to put a few things in holes.
Oh yes, but there's. I mean, you probably might not have found one yet, and Dan obviously won't have yet. But like when you do, you'll be like, "What?"
What?
Also,
and they have to explicitly not put a thing in a hole.
It's actually also like a kind of a funny, like meta Easter egg kind of joke about Breath of the Wild in the process.
Okay.
But yeah, once you see that, it's like, oh, it's disobeying our number one game rule of putting things in holes.
Put things in holes.
And also making quite a funny joke about Breath of the Wild at the same time.
All right. I'll look for that.
Nice. Oh, looking forward to that.
I wonder if I'll even spot what you mean.
Well, you might. Just look for things not being put in holes.
Not being put in holes.
I mean, there is still quite a lot of putting things in holes, that's for sure.
How much time do you think...
Of course. I mean, it's a game.
How much time do you think has passed? Like, that was the other thing we were talking about. It's like, how much time has passed between the end of Breath of the Wild and Link awakening here?
Well, I mean,
because Pyrrha is no longer a child.
You only need to get like slightly further in the game to get a better estimation, I guess. As soon as you see a few more characters, it's just like, oh yeah, there's been like under 10 years probably.
Yeah, I reckon it must be around that region because they still haven't built anything. Seemingly, like the progress in Hyrule has been slow, clearly since the Calamity.
Well, they've done something.
Fair.
I mean, they stole all their resources for the new towers. I guess, like all the resources have gone to that. What about the people, Zelda?
Yeah, come on, taxing people that are building infrastructure instead of
obvious question: why is she still a princess?
And not a queen?
Yeah, she should be Queen Zelda.
Yeah. The kings that died like 100 years
ago.
ago.
She should have been Queen Zelda in the first game.
Yeah, it's true.
Wow, except I guess they assumed she
never
was
had
dead as well.
For a coronation,
Yeah, I suppose. Depends on their... and maybe I guess they haven't gone... Well, it's never explicitly said, but they hadn't said they'd like gone back to the castle since the Calamity, but...
Well, the intro kind of implies castle, that, right?
They're under it, but they don't suggest they're living in it.
Well, no, because for some reason, Zelda says the castle has fallen into neglect. And it's like, what, you mean like more into neglect than it already was after the Calamity?
Yeah.
I mean, it's only been another 10 years on top of 100.
I mean, less malice everywhere, I guess, in those 10 years. That presumably all just evaporated, helpfully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why are we now calling it gloom? Like, has everyone just forgotten that we called it malice before?
Because it's
very slightly different.
It looks a bit different.
Yeah, it looks a little bit different. I'm glad because I was getting a little bit sick of the malice like effect or whatever, so I'm glad it's changed a little for the gloom.
Why would you
wispy? That is a new effect, right? In the kind of fog, kind of dynamic fog thing for the right.
I mean,
I don't know. Maybe
it's kind of had it before, didn't it? But it just didn't give off the same like black-red clouds that they do now.
Yeah, I think they maybe.
I'm not even sure it's dynamic, right? Like it's probably just nicely canned, nicely animated.
Probably, yeah.
They've moved it more into effects, I guess, rather than models, because like the gloom is mostly just flat now, rather than the malice, which is all lumpy before.
Polygonal stuff, malice, yeah.
I mean, you're still going to see a lot of it.
Well, yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
As soon as you get to the... As soon as you discover one part of the map, then you'll be like, oh, there's a
well,
lot
you
of
only
this.
need to look at Hyrule Castle.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of it there, yeah.
Here's a big pile.
Of the Kingdom.
Of the Kingdom.
Video game.
Well, we might have to. I don't know, because we don't want to talk too much more about it, do we? So we might have to wrap that one.
We are like at least a week delayed in terms of true spoilers. Like in terms of our podcast, but obviously Dan is the important factor for us.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I'll be playing it now. I won't be catching up, but I'll be playing it. So yeah.
It depends, isn't it? Because it's one of those where
actually I'm coming over to yours like next week, so I might not. I'm gonna have to switch into undocked mode. Oh my god! Anyway,
yep, just bring the Switch with you. We can all play it simultaneously.
Yeah.
We can watch where you're at and see what's going on.
Oh man,
because that's been watching where I'm
at. I like the Pro Controller though. I'm just so spoiled by my like big screen TV surround sound Pro Controller setup that it just feels weird playing it on the mobile mode.
I can't remember the last time I used my Switch.
You've got the same.
Yeah, no. But I can't remember the last time I used my Switch in my hands.
It does feel weird.
No,
like,
exactly.
It wasn't that long ago.
Every time I've done that, even playing Breath of the Wild was like, you take that into Portal, it's like, this feels strange. And I don't even use a Pro Controller. I just use the Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
Is it
the Pro Controller is pretty good, Zach? I know it's expensive, but I recommend them.
Oh yeah, no, in my
opinion,
I've had one since Splatoon 2.
I just don't like Nintendo's mushy buttons. That's the trouble.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Fair.
I like the clicky buttons that the Switch has.
I mean, it's.
I know what you mean.
It's not bad, and in fairness, one of my buttons on my Pro Controller did go right mushy at one point. It went weirdly gunky feeling. It seems to have solved that. That seems to have gone away. I don't know quite what's happened, or what happened to it in the first place. But it's fine. It's fine. Don't sweat it too much. So it is too expensive for what it is, because it's not got analog triggers or some of the features of the more the other console controllers, but it isn't bad. I suppose it's got gyro. The Xbox doesn't have gyro.
But the PlayStation does.
But the PlayStation does. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I'd want to play on the. But I know you've been quite happy with it, so maybe I don't want to subject you to it when you come here, because I don't want to buy another Pro Controller. But like I suppose I played most of Breath of the Wild on the Joy-Cons in the grip before I had the Pro Controller. But it's hard to go. It is hard to go back.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if this is a controversial opinion or not. I kind of don't like holding the Switch. I don't think it's comfortable. I don't think it's that controversial. It's not got any grips or anything. No, and it's kind of a bit too heavy to really hold comfortably like that. And
I think
in fairness, I've been using the DS
only just
recently, and that's kind of got the same problem. I don't think that's very comfortable to actually hold.
I do think that light one that Jess had is a little bit nicer, like for that.
Sure,
it's made for that. I mean, you have no alternative, right? But yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of a bit more Game Boy-y. Yeah.
Will it even sync to a Pro Controller? So say if you set it down, I suppose it doesn't have the stand to put it down for tabletop mode. Does it have a stand?
I mean, that would be a bit. I don't know. I didn't try that. I mean, I never used the stand on my Switch, so I don't know if. I mean, that was one thing that they famously improved on the
OLED,
or whatever. That they improved on the OLED, so that would kind of imply that maybe that the other one doesn't, the light one doesn't have a stand at all, because you can't detach the Joy-Cons because it doesn't have Joy-Cons, so it probably wouldn't make sense to have a stand
unless you could sync.
But I don't know if that has the Bluetooth.
Yeah.
But maybe they removed that part of the hardware to save money and make it cheaper or whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
Possible.
But then. Yeah, I don't know. It must have the Amiibo reader, but that's like, that's just contactless, isn't it? Whatever. What's it called?
Under the capture button, isn't it?
NFC. Yeah, it's NFC. Yeah.
I find it weird that in Tears of the Kingdom that you can turn off the Amiibo button.
Oh, that would actually be quite useful.
Yes, you should just go into the options and do that.
Yeah.
But it's, you're very unlikely to hit that direction on the power wheel, even once you've got all the other powers around it.
Yeah.
Like, they've set it up so that
I think it just
the prime powers are on the cardinal directions and then the secondary powers are on the diagonals or whatever.
I think aesthetically that would just look nicer.
Well,
to not have the Amiibo symbol.
Well, it only grays it out. It doesn't totally remove it.
That's still better.
But yeah, I'm not really sure why you need to turn that off, apart from to prevent you from accidentally hitting that button, which is not that much of a problem.
What amiibo does it support? Does it only support like
all the Zelda ones?
Just the Zelda ones?
Well, as far as I know, yeah.
What if I stick fat ass Bowser on it?
Probably not.
Missed opportunities again. I always thought like Nintendo should go a bit more out there with some of their amiibo support and be like, well, you might get. We're not going to support them all because that's impossible, but like maybe like chuck a random one in there. Like you dropped Mario in and he just sort of turns up, or you get a mushroom, you get like a 1-up mushroom for something that does something. Or
yes, but that's not how that would work. It's like what they do at most. What you're going to get out of that is because they're not going to make custom assets or anything. It's going to be like either put Mario amiibo on Breath of the Wild and it just drops a bunch of mushrooms. That would be the thing. I mean, most of the amiibos do just drop random crap to start with, so
sure.
Making specialized packages of that.
I just kind of thought that was kind of the opportunity of amiibo to do wild stuff like that, and they just never have. It's like Mario Maker, I guess got close.
Well, I mean, Breath of the Wild technically had that with like the Wolf Link summon and all that stuff. The ones that did more than just drop a chest full of random crap on you.
How did they add that? Like, so when Twilight Princess HD came out,
I don't know if it was even related to that. I think it was just the. Yeah, I don't know what amiibo that was, but I feel like that happened before Twilight Princess HD.
Actually, thinking about it, Twilight Princess HD was probably Wii U. Did they ever come out on Switch?
Oh yeah, maybe not.
I don't think that actually has come out on Switch.
No, it was because it was. They had the Twilight Princess Link amiibo from Smash Brothers, right? Because the original version, the old amiibo.
Oh, it would have been Link, but not Wolf Link.
No, yeah, but it would have been Twilight Princess Link.
Yeah.
And then when you tap that, you get the Wolf Link summon in Breath of the Wild.
Or, Link-ass looking Link rather than blue tunic Link.
But yeah, that one was the one that did something significant, I suppose. Otherwise, it was just a bunch of chests and other random crap falling out of the sky, which you could, maybe use to orbital strike some stuff. Because it's a chest and it has physics as it falls out of the sky.
Okay. I didn't think of that. That could be quite entertaining. Also, I've seen a thing where, like, supposedly you can damage stuff by, like, master handing stuff into enemies, but I've never had that work.
No, it doesn't apply nearly as much force as Magnesis does when you're carrying things in Ultra Hand. It's like quite slow. So you can't even do the thing that you used to be able to do of like flicking a crate into the air to make it fly upwards.
Right.
Because it doesn't have that faster motion. Although they have conveniently made it so every crate will now break if you just drop it from the maximum height you can lift it up. Because that used to be how you'd break like the metal crates. You'd have to do the flick trick to like propel them up with enough force to make them shatter on the way down. But now even those metal crates, you do still occasionally find those.
Yeah.
Those will just break if you just drop them from as high as you can lift them with Ultra Hand.
I should totally start doing that, right.
It's a good trick. Yeah. Okay. Clever.
Well, it's a good trick, but it's also incredibly tedious.
Yeah, sure.
You might as well just hit them with a weapon if you have an appropriate weapon to do that.
Maybe, but weapon durability, man, still a thing.
Yeah, even if you attach rocks to the end of your weapons.
Yeah. Well, it was hilarious at first, but I'm running out of like comedy ideas for some of that stuff.
Well, you just haven't got inventive enough. That's still the problem that I'm having, where I'm just like,
Well, this works, so yeah.
It's also a matter of like, there's still an element of you can't shake off the hoarding instinct.
Sure.
Like I don't want to,
my thing in Breath of Wild, my thing was like you can make so many different recipes, but I would just make like 5 hearty durians, or put 5 durians in a pot or whatever, and make the most powerful like health meal.
I mean, that's sort of been fixed by. It seems like hearty ingredients are just more rare now.
I've got one so far. I've got one hearty ingredient.
Although that I'm still only like technically a quarter of the way through the map, not necessarily the game of who knows, but
a quarter of which map?
Yes, a quarter of how much of the map. But yeah, like there's still some hoarding instinct of like, I don't necessarily want to use these things. And of course, the classic problem of like, but what if it's used to upgrade your armor? You won't know until you get to the Great Fairy and look at the menu to see what you need to upgrade.
Yeah. Classic.
But, at a certain point when I'm like, well, I've got 30 fucking Black Bokoblin horns at this point, I can probably start using those for weapons. Probably get away with it. But not any of the weird shit. I did, this is a thing that me and Rob talked about. I did try, if you attach a key eyeball to a weapon and then throw it, it does not in fact home.
Oh, that's disappointing.
So it
only works on arrows.
Yes, it's only
that's
an
arrows, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame.
Missed opportunity.
That would have been funny, especially if it like flew through the air like a straight spear or something. It was like, like a missile.
Well, technically, I guess I did only try it on a sword, which spins, whereas spears do actually
fly
throw
straight.
like a spear. So, although I would be surprised if they did a whole different thing for when you put it on a spear.
So did that theory not work? Like, because you had a theory about keys eyeballs on boomerang type weapons.
Oh yeah, I didn't try that yet either.
Okay. I haven't seen any boomerangs yet, actually.
It took me quite a while to find one.
Yeah. I was about to say they must be there because they were in the Breath of the Wild, and at this point I'm going, anything that was in Breath of the Wild is probably going to be here.
Yeah.
They're fairly uncommon in Breath of the Wild, though.
Yeah, well, going
those?
up the whole of Zora's Domain, it's like all those Lasalfas with their boomerangs.
Oh, they have them, yeah.
Those weird triple spiky ones.
Yeah.
I did run into an annoying situation where I was actually trying to use a boomerang because it's like, oh look, there's a big load of small enemies coming towards me. I can use this boomerang I've been holding onto and just mow them down. But they're all too short. The boomerang just goes straight over them.
That's quite funny.
Because you can't really adjust that. Like when you throw a boomerang like that, it I guess it sort of locks to the height of the terrain. Like you can't aim it lower. So you can't hit low enemies with a boomerang.
The only Lizalfos I've seen was just burnt my stash of fairies, so
That wasn't you were quite near the edge of the map at that point.
Yeah, screw those guys.
Right. I think we should wrap up this discussion for now and continue next time, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Should we put a little warning on that, like future episodes might involve a few more spoilers as Dan gets to these areas and we just open up conversation a little more freely?
I mean, assume that our podcast discussion spoilers are always going to be about a week behind the general progression of everyone in the rest of the world.
I mean, a week
the rest of the world, at least.
Yeah.
Probably more. Yeah. But we'll warn when it comes to it. We'll see how far I get.
And, once we get to Game of the Year, then it's actual spoiler time. That's when we will be able to totally talk about whatever.
Sure.
So make sure you finish this game by the end of the year, Dan. Although I feel like I might not finish the game by the end of this year. There's a lot of game, is basically.
There's a lot of game. No, you'll finish it. You'll definitely finish it. I give it one more month.
What's even a contender for fucking Game of the Year other than this?
Hi-Fi Rush.
Jeez.
Yes, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I saw some people who are maybe a bit crazy and also getting ahead of the game a bit and suggesting that Final Fantasy 16. But, I don't know about that.
No. I mean, as interesting as that game looks, I don't think so. Sorry. I don't think it's possible. I mean, Bomber of Cyberpunk still has a chance.
That's my counter pick. Yeah. Even if Ninty Shadow drops Mario and Metroid, it still, I think, would struggle. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be great. If another Mario game comes out, we have to have that discussion again.
Oh mate,
yeah.
And even then, I as much as at the time I kind of did enjoy Mario Odyssey probably more than I enjoyed Breath of the Wild. I can yield that one. I understand Breath of the Wild is the clear choice, but
yeah, Mario Odyssey is fucking great though.
Yeah,
and it's the fact that those came out on that same year is insane. Anyway,
but 6 years since a decent Mario game, man.
I know. Well,
if you want
that
Bowser's Fury,
Bowser's Fury is really good. Yeah,
but a shorter experience.
But anyway,
yeah.
Yeah, but maybe I'm just parroting what Donkey was saying, but I think it's probably right there. But yeah, it's a full game. Yeah.
Where's my Mario? Come on.
But it is interesting that points towards open world Mario, doesn't it? That Bowser's Fury. So who knows?
Well, I mean, in some ways, Odyssey had elements of that as well.
Yeah.
Well, kind of, but it wasn't. Not really, though, right?
Well, I mean, it wasn't like open world, but you had
yeah.
less restrictions inside each of the levels.
There were exactly.
And the levels were bigger.
There were bigger levels, yeah. Considerably,
but that's the challenge. How do you? I suppose you could go Galaxy with it, but it's like, how do you make it varied enough while being one continuous world, right? For Mario, that you can do that for Zelda. Can you do that for Mario? I don't know, but they've had a go with Bowser's Fury. I kind of don't want level. So
yeah, but that was, as I said, that was smaller and kind of a single theme, right? Wasn't it? Like, to an extent, but Bowser's Fury,
exactly.
And it's like, I kind of don't want that from Mario. Like, the way they went with Odyssey was just right for me, like in terms of sizing and theming. And it's like, you don't get bored of it.
Well, they won't do it if they can't. If they can't make it work, they won't do it.
I bet they've been experimenting with it, but like, also, why? You've got Breath of the Wild for that. You've got Tears of the Kingdom.
Well, yeah,
for
sure.
That. Like,
you
don't need. Nintendo don't need another massive open world game. Then don't learn the Ubisoft lesson.
don't power everything.
Yeah. Well, that's they did learn from that, but learn how to do it, better. Anyway,
just
cool.
Not make every game like that thing that they.
No, don't make every game the same. Yeah. Right, so that's our podcast, and we will have way more of this with gradually increasing spoilers as we go in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, we have a YouTube channel, Happy Salad, where we are playing currently through Beyond Good and Evil, which is pretty cool. So check out that series for some high jinks and low jinks and all the jinks. Side jinks, and jinking to one side and the other. That's what jinking is.
Z-axis jinks.
Yeah, Z-axis jinking. And we'll be back with more Zelda and other less important talk next time. So I'll catch you then.
All you other games.
Assuming we even play the other games, yes.
Assuming there are other games in the world.
Yeah, the probability is lower currently. There will be many games to talk about.
Yeah, you have to see what has more draw, Tears of the Kingdom or Croc. So let's find out next time on the Saladcast. Catch you then. Goodbye.